pew, 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 pew. And welcome to the Ruby Tuesday. My name is Ruben, and this is my review for a Netflix film, Shanghai Fortress. This is the second science fiction fantasy film that China has put their money into. The first being Wandering Earth, and that swept up at the box office and mostly was received well by critics. Then Netflix bought the rights and they put that on, and it was well received. And I reviewed that and I thought it was okay, had a few issues with it, but for the most part really enjoyed it. So I was quite eagerly anticipating this one. I knew it was coming, so Shanghai Fortress is here finally, and I've seen it, and wow, that's not nearly as good as the original. So let me tell you what it's about. So Shanghai Fortress is an hour and 47 minutes long. It's a science fiction war film. It's set in the future. The Shanghai city battles to defend itself against an ongoing alien attack force. This attack force keeps laying siege to numerous cities around the globe, but where this film focuses on is a young man who falls for a heroic general and soon follows in her footsteps as she defends Earth against extraterrestrials. So this film is a film of two halves for me. There is the science fiction fantasy CGI fest, then there's the relationships within the story, and I think it works sometimes and it doesn't work other times, and I'm not sure where people are going to fall on the fence with this film, because if you love science fiction films and you can excuse sometimes the CGI within it, you love the mechanics of how they do it, they've put a huge budget into this film, if you can excuse a lot of it, then you might just be able to sit back on a Sunday afternoon and watch this and just really enjoy it. I know a lot of people have. Some people have said that when they've seen other reviews of this film going, I don't know what you watched, I really enjoyed it, it's a good Sunday flick, don't take it too seriously. On the other hand, this film is very patriotic. Like, you know that excuse when people say, America has saved the day again, only America could come up and build a space rocket and save the world, why weren't other countries involved? There is that. This film is very patriotic. There's a lot of this. But I didn't have too much issues with that. I understood that the technology involved, that China had it, as they have the best defense. There's this force field that goes up over the city. And these drone pilots, which is where the film centers around, are being trained to be the best of the best of the best, sir. And I liked their characters, and I kind of liked that part of the story where these drone pilots have to go into the air and defend against the oncoming forces, the flying forces, and the various mechanics that the mothership is bringing to defeat Earth or Shanghai. And I actually like the design of the aliens. Their mechanoid, robotic, flying mech suits reminded me a bit of Gaivan, a bit of Gundam Wing. Obviously very alien in nature. I really like the decision not to show a lot of the alien species apart from their kind of flying ships and their exoskeleton flying Gaiva suits. I like that. I think it added to the story. Had they gone into the kind of the history of the origins, or gone into the mothership, or any of that, I think it probably would have taken away from this unrelenting force. A lot of times when I was watching the film, it reminded me of films like Terminator. It's not nearly as good as that, but because they're so mechanoid in nature, they're relentless. They never monologue. There's none of this, oh, what's the bad guy gonna do now? When they attack to kill. And when you see the ground forces interacting with the alien forces in hand-to-hand combat, the Earth Defense Forces stand no chance. They're shooting, and it seems like their bullets are not even hitting anything, and the alien forces pretty much destroy them. And it was really great to see that they didn't shy away from that, like somehow a human person can beat this exoskeleton in hand-to-hand combat, just by themselves. And I thought that was a bit realistic. What I didn't get is that when there are emotional beats and the music swells and you're meant to feel something for the characters within, I didn't feel anything, because they didn't spend a lot of time on character development. There are arc plot moments where one of the young pilot drones really likes, he's Captain Lin, Commander Lin, wow, I get that right. And that story is probably the heart of the whole film. Unfortunately, they don't develop it a lot. There's a lot of unrequited love scenes where, stares and longings and kind of monologues inside his head or within the other characters. And I thought that was interesting, but I just wish they played on that more. Because this film centers this film features heavily on the science fiction and the CGI, and they have a mix of the world. So at times it's very heavy on the CGI, and you notice it, and it takes you out of the film. Other times when they're fighting on the ground with ground troops, there's a sense of realism. So you can kind of excuse the CGI when you know it's CGI when it's mixed in with real world elements, and I think that works. And there were parts where this film reminded me of things like Starship Troopers, the kind of the creations of the mechanics that we have now, the human defense forces. It's all very grey and blocked off and squared and precise, very military, and that reminded me of that. And I thought that was a good way to go with it, except it gets too sci-fi, and there's parts where the film is just centered on, you know, touch screens, and they're doing this, and they're watching things explode in that area, and it's devoid really of any heart. So when you have the music swelling and the score swelling, and the score is amazing, and the composer in this film is brilliant, you don't really get swept up in that. I mean, I loved the score, and I was like, oh, this is fun, this is a great score, but I wasn't really emotionally engaged in these with these characters. And I think that's the big issue here. Within The Wandering Earth, you really felt for what was happening with the characters in that film. When somebody died, I was like, no, I liked him. Here, when something happens, I'm like, oh, okay, he was pretty cool, but yeah. They needed to spend the majority of their film developing characters, having really great character moments, and you can thrust in action sequences in that. But by the time you get to your ultimate ending with the big explosion, the big Michael Bay explosions like they like to do, and I love how they gave money to the budget and the expense, and it looks great most of the time, especially with the explosions. But if you're not developing your characters, you're not giving your audience someone to like and really enjoy and be a part of and get to grip with those characters, you're not going to like what happens, or you're just not going to care. So this film's going to go in one eye and out the other, and you're going to forget it moments later. There were moments that I thought were very cool, were very creative, and that's why I think this film is a film of two halves. If you like science fiction like I do, I often let bad things about a science fiction film slide, because I'm just, you know, if it's science fiction, I'm there. I love spacecrafts and, you know, Guyver stuff. Anything sci-fi, I'm kind of like, yeah, that's alright. Don't worry about the mistakes. But there were some inexcusable things that they did, and some of the CG with the budget, it was 376 million they had on the budget, and when you see the size of it, you'll understand where it went. But there was some stuff like with car crashes, you can just blatantly see was CGI. You know, when it crashes and stops, it just looked fake, and that kind of stuff really takes you out of the film. So where you start liking the characters and they start developing them, then they stop and go to big action sequences, and then they go back to carrying on trying to develop those characters or the story or explaining a lot. This film has a lot of explanation and monologuing at the beginning. I think it takes 20 minutes for them to explain the universe or the Earth as it is now. Yeah, it's kind of a mess. I really enjoyed parts of it, and I really disliked parts of it. So I'm not going to be as harsh in like my score as some of the other critics are. I know on IMDb they've given this 2 out of 10. I was like, wow, that's kind of harsh with this. I think it's the middle of the road. It's not awful, but it's not great. So I'm just going to give this film a C. Let me know in the comments below what you thought about this film. Yeah, do chat to me. Did you like The Wandering Earth? What did you think of this? Why do you think it kind of didn't hit the mark with people? Thanks so much for watching this review. If you like my content and want to join, we have exclusive content to members. Check out the stuff in there, short films, behind the scenes, that kind of stuff on our channel. Other than that, let me know what you thought about this film. And until next time, remember, live long and Tuesday. Ah, flippin' heck.